I'm Kristen. This video is a tutorial on how I painted the girl with the feather earring. So stay tuned and you'll see what I did. So these are my preliminary sketches. I only did a couple and they're really small, and then I did a big one. This is my final sketch. So first I decided I wanted to pick my color scheme. So I just went and colored in my sketch with Prismacolor pencils. I knew I wanted a girl with a ponytail, but I didn't know anything else, so I just started drawing. This is what I did. And she wound up looking like a ginger, so she's got red hair now. So the colors I mixed are the oranges for the hair, purple for the background, blue for a border, green for the background, and flesh. You need to have flesh. So I'm measuring out a border. I wanted her to be on top of a square. So 1.5 inches in, I drew a square, and then I taped it off with some masking tape. So I'm doing 2 coats of green. The third coat of green paint has darker green in the corners that I blended wet into lighter green in the center. This is what it looks like when it's still wet. It has a lot more texture. It does dry quite a bit flatter than that. You don't have to worry about the brush strokes showing through. I actually like when there's a couple brush strokes that you can see. There's a nice clean edge when you peel off your tape. So while that paint dries, trace your drawing onto tracing paper with something like a micron or a felt tip pen. Next, you want to tape off your square so that you don't get any paint on the square when you paint the border. And I chose to do a purple border. So do 2 coats of purple. And there's a nice clean edge when you take off your tape. So I decided that having just a green square inside of a purple border was kind of plain. So I found this scrapbook paper that is kind of lacy and has these holes, and I wanted to use that as a stencil and put gold paint inside the holes and have like a gold lace looking pattern across the entire painting. But since it's paper, you have to be careful using paper as a stencil because it absorbs the liquid from the paint and gets ripply and wiggly, and then it's not so effective. That's why most stencils are made with plastic. So first, in order as like a loophole, I did a coat of Mod Podge on both sides with this little sponge applicator. And this seals in your paper so that when you get it wet with the paint, it doesn't get all ripply and wiggly and absorb the liquid, so it stays mostly flat. And that way, when you paint on it, it shouldn't get stuck to your painting because the paint will literally glue it and seal it into the painting if you let it dry. So make sure after you paint your stencil, you peel it away before the paint dries or it'll get stuck. See, it mostly worked. It's still a little ripply, but this is really not bad because I've done this wrong before and this worked out pretty well. And some of the paint did get up underneath, under the circles, and kind of get distorted. It's not perfect, but I was looking for something kind of rustic looking, so having this sort of messy pattern works for what I was going for. But you see there's that one little piece. There's always that one little piece. It did rip. There's a little bit of paper that I had to pick off, but no harm done, and that's the pretty pattern. I wanted a blue border between the purple and the green, just to make a little fun statement. So I taped it off, and then I added my blue, did one coat of that, added some white in the corners, and then kind of worked white into the blue, wet into wet, all the way around. And then when you peel off the tape, you have this fun bright blue fine border. Now I'm going to paint over some of the gold with the darker green paint inside the square. And by doing this, you're kind of casting a shadow on the pattern, and you start along the border and then you drag it in with quick little strokes, and I just did circles. It seemed to work pretty well. And you don't need to cover all of the gold, but see how it gives it a gradient effect? So now it's time to transfer the girl onto the painting. Since the paint is so dark, in order to see her when you transfer it, I decided to use white chalk on the back instead of graphite. So you just put chalk over the whole thing, and then you trace it with, I just use a mechanical pencil without any lead sticking out. See how it's very fine, but you can see it. So to keep that in place, I did a little white on top of all of it. Just white acrylic paint with a liner brush. So first I painted a base tone for her skin. Then I did a base coat of her hair, and while I was doing this, I was kind of changing my mind about how I wanted the painting to look. So I decided as I was painting her hair that I wanted the golden green to show through because it would give it kind of a collage look. So I just painted orange over all of where I'd put white on the lines, and then you just add a little bit of water to the orange and you drag it around and you spread it out so that you can shade to the shape of her ponytail and her head to give it just a little bit of dimension. And you just keep painting like this until you fill it with as much color as you want. If you don't want to see through it, just do a whole flat coat and then do your shading on top. But since I wanted to see underneath, I just went ahead and started blending with some water, and I did a little bit with water and a little bit dry brush or stumbling. Then I took a lighter orange and I went over the outlines again. After I outlined the hair, I did the lighter tones in the skin. So this is after the second coat of the skin tone. I just kind of made her neck fade into the green. Next, I decided to line the entire painting with the same purple that I used on the border instead of doing black. I liked the idea of having it all be colorful and no black in the painting. You could just use black, but purple is awfully dark, and from a distance you're not really gonna know the difference. It's just gonna stand out. So just line the entire painting with whichever color you've chosen. Some people like to do browns in the skin and then something way darker than the hair but the same color as the hair to outline it. But I just did purple on the whole thing, and I think it looks really colorful and awesome. So I didn't get to record the lips and the eyebrow. I just painted the eyebrow orange and then I painted the lips kind of pinkish. the texture showed through from the gold dots underneath, so I just decided to paint gold dots on top of where I had seen them through in the skin and in the hair to make them a little shinier and fun. I left the feather the way it was. I just lined it with purple and left the green with the little white behind it. I thought it looked cool that way, so I just left it. So before I show you the final painting, I first wanted to share with you some things that I have in my Etsy shop. They're watercolor prints. This one is Universal Love. This is the top portion of a painting I did. It's elongated if the giraffe continues. But this is Midnight Safari. I have a Sumatran tiger. And this is Discernment of the Hawk. These are all for sale in my Etsy shop currently. Alright, so let's see the finished painting. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I have a Facebook page you can like as well as an Etsy shop. The links are going to be down in the description. Thank you for watching!